Good evening, everyone. I think we're live. My name is Jason Tierney with Transform Dental Sleep, and I want to thank you all for joining us now tonight for the impact of direct consumer oral appliance therapy. Uh, while we cover a lot of vital topics in these webinars, this may be one of the most important that we've covered to date. When you registered for tonight's webinar, we solicited you to submit a question for tonight's panelists. And a lot of the questions came through, highlighted one of two things, both of which might be true. The first is that I may not have done a very good job in conveying what tonight's webinar was about. And I say that because so many of the questions that came through, we had a couple hundred registrants, over 200. But many of the questions had to do with over-the-counter oral appliances. So think Boyle and Bytes. And that's really not what we're talking about tonight, which brings me to the second point, that so few questions were submitted that really center on what we are going to be talking about tonight, underscores how important it is that we all get some more information about this, because what we're talking about tonight, at the risk of aggrandizement, this could be potentially an existential threat to the field of dental sleep medicine. So I'm really thankful that you all are here tonight, and I'm also thankful for each of our panelists. We've got four esteemed panelists tonight, and I want to take a moment to introduce each one of them. Most of them you probably know by face, but Elias, let's I'm not sure who's first. Actually, before we do that, no. Let me tell you real quick, because we're not going to have a commercial break in this webinar. There's too much important. I don't want to break the cadence of the important dialogue that we'll be having tonight. But I do want to just mention to you that in 3 weeks, same time, we're having another webinar, Managing Oral Appliance Complications and Side Effects. We'll be joined by Dr. Kent Smith, who's here tonight, and Jonathan Lown, MD. He's a physician. As well as our good friend, Dr. Jason Doucette. So be sure that you join us for that webinar. You can register at transformdentalsleep.com. And then also, if you haven't registered for the Transform Dental Sleep Symposium yet, you probably will. You absolutely should. And if you haven't registered, get registered now, because there's a code there, webinar, where you can save $75 on both dentist and team member tuition. So go to tdssymposium.com. There's a few of the preliminary speakers that we have. This will be the best damn dental sleep medicine meeting you have ever attended. All right. Who do we have with us tonight? Our first panelist is my good friend and fellow Arizonan, Dr. Stacy Lehman. Stacy, why are you qualified to talk to everybody about this tonight?
I never said I was qualified, but
all right.
I live dental sleep. I mean, we have 3 sleep-only locations here in Arizona, and so obviously it's pretty important to me.
Absolutely. And Stacy, you also you run the very popular dental sleep medicine Facebook group. So I hope that there is some dialogue on that in that group after this webinar. So thank you for maintaining the circus. Scott Craig, you are one of the most valued and valuable voices in dental sleep medicine, despite not being a dentist. Why are you here?
I mean, I agree with you, Jason. I think there's some concerning newer models out there that are definitely disruptive, and I look forward to talking about, the differences in those models and what they are not, and how they may be threatening to the traditional standard practices of dental sleep medicine. And, I look forward to hearing what everybody else has to say as well. Like Stacy said, this is what I do. It's been my life for the last 20 years, and I'd like to add maybe 10 more to that. So yeah, I'm
Cool.
just excited about chatting about it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks a ton, Scott. And then we've got Mr. Rob Kibler, another non-dentist, yet incredibly bright and influential advisor in the dental sleep medicine field. Rob, I've said enough about you. No, never. Who are you? Why are you here?
Heavy words and heavy praise, Mr. Tierney. Thank you. Yeah, I'm with Ohio Sleep Treatment. So we're like Dr. Lehman, we're a dental sleep practice only. We got started in 2018 in an 862 square foot closet. We're getting ready to open our 5th location here in May. So I'm definitely, interested to have the discussion. I think I'm a systems guy, and I think every system, gives you the result that it's perfectly designed to give. So I think the fields of sleep medicine and dental sleep medicine have kind of opened up the opportunity for direct to consumer companies, which is great. But I think the key points of like quality and cost and patient experience, all that. I'm excited to kind of dive into those topics. So yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
High five, Rob. Thanks for being here. And then Dr. Kent Smith. You own and operate the world's busiest dental sleep medicine practice, and you're a 2-time author. Enough said. There's always more to be said.
Yeah. I didn't write that, by the way, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that. And I'm just the old token guy on here. Everybody thinks I know a lot just because I don't have any hair. But yeah, I realized the importance of this when not one, but 2 of the physicians in my practice forwarded me emails about this webinar saying, this is big. You need to go and attend this. And I said, I'm on the panel. I'll be there.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us. Before we dive in, I do want to cover just very briefly a few crucial housekeeping matters. One of them is my BFF, Elias Calandra, is in the background. If you want to submit your questions down there in the chat or the Q&A, we'll be sure Elias will be kind of responding to some things in real time, but we'll also make it a point to try to get to all of those. We are allotted for an hour. We always try to be very mindful of your time. With that being said, this is a vitally important topic, and if we need to go long, a little bit longer, and everyone is available, we will. If not, we won't. But if you remain on until the hour, you will get your CE certificate emailed to you at the email address you used when you registered. You'll receive it in the next 48 hours. That means don't email me tomorrow morning and say I don't have my CE certificate. You might get it tomorrow morning. You will certainly get it in the next 48 hours. In that email, along with your CE certificate, will be a link so that you have access to a recording of this webinar. And again, type your questions in at the bottom. With that said, Scott Craig was kind enough to create a comparison chart that covers many of the models that we'll be discussing tonight. And because it was abundantly clear that the topic of tonight's webinar was unclear, I think it's very important that Scott cover this comparison chart in some detail to ensure that we're all on the same page, we're speaking the same language, and when we talk about these various models, that we really have a firm understanding of what we're talking about. So Scott, if you wouldn't mind just kind of walking us through what it is that we're seeing here, please.
Yeah, so I tried to break it up into some of the various models that we see out there. So you have sort of like your standard practice, your standard dental sleep medicine practice where, it's a general dentist that owns the dental sleep medicine practice. And you have your direct to consumer dental sleep medicine, which is the idea of sort of like mail order dental sleep medicine. You have your physician MSA business model where a physician has contracted with an outside entity to perform some of the dental practice components. And then you have a physician provided dental sleep medicine practice where a physician is not working with a dentist in any way, shape, or form. So the physician themselves and their auxiliaries are doing dental sleep medicine in-house. And then you have your physician who is working with an employed dentist within the medical group practice. And so I tried to, one, bring out these different models that are out there and then some of the key features of the various models. So whether they're making, custom made oral appliances. And in all the models that we're sort of going to talk about tonight, they all make custom made mandibular advancement devices that fit the category either E0486 or K1027, which are the traditional custom made mandibular advancement devices. So we're not talking about, like Jason was saying, these over-the-counter devices. In the models, I laid out whether or not there's a licensed dentist on board. And so obviously in the standard practice, you have a licensed dentist. In the direct to consumer, you may or may not have a licensed dentist involved in the practice. With a physician who's contracting with an outside dental organization that's fulfilling the dental licensure components and so forth, there is a licensed dentist. It's just not in-house with that physician. With the physician who's providing dental sleep medicine themselves, there's obviously no licensed dentist. And then with those that employ a dentist in-house, there's a licensed dentist inside the physician group practice. There are varying levels of dental supervision in all these models. Obviously, direct dental supervision when you're running your own dental practice, or when the dentist is running their own dental practice. In a direct consumer model, it's remote supervision. So it's general supervision, which means that they're not in the building and they're not directly overseeing the dental care itself. So in the direct to consumer, it's general. In a physician MSA relationship or management services agreement relationship, they're not in the building. Again, it's remote oversight, so it's general dental supervision. In the physician provided dental sleep medicine, there's no dental oversight whatsoever. So there's no dentist involved, period. In the physician employed or arrangement with a dentist, there is direct dental oversight. So you only have direct dental oversight in the standard dental sleep medicine practice and in the situation where a physician is actually employing a dentist. I also sort of laid out some of the key features of providing dental sleep medicine. So is there a comprehensive dental evaluation? Is the dentist physically going in and evaluating that person or that patient in person? And that only happens in your standard dental sleep medicine practice and in the models where the physician employs a dentist. All of the other scenarios do not have a comprehensive dental evaluation done by a dentist. That may be done by an auxiliary, a nurse practitioner, a PA, the physician themselves, but it's not being done by someone with a dental license and the qualifications to do dental sleep medicine in the traditional sense. I also laid out, dental imaging is something that's pretty much the standard of care in doing dental sleep medicine, and that really only exists in your standard dental practice. Typically, that's not going to be done in a direct consumer approach or in this physician MSA model, or if the physician's doing it themselves, that imaging typically wouldn't be done. The Byte registration and impressions are traditionally obviously done in regular dental sleep medicine, but those are not done by the dentist in a direct consumer approach. They're not done directly by the dentist in person in a physician MSA model, nor are they done by the dentist when the physician is doing dental sleep medicine in-house. They are done by the dentist when a physician employs a dentist. I think the other one that's probably sort of like the big thing that people were thinking about tonight is whether or not a patient self-impression kit is utilized, and that's not traditionally done in the regular dental sleep medicine practice, but it is done in the direct-to-consumer mail order dental sleep medicine business model. There are physical impressions that can be done, obviously, when a physician is doing it themselves. It could be a physical impression. It could be that they bought a digital scanner. So in the physician MSA model, where they're contracting with an outside dental organization, that physician or their auxiliaries could actually be doing a digital intraoral impression. They could be doing a physical impression. Same thing as if the physician is doing it themselves. And obviously, if there's a dentist involved, the dentist is doing it. And then delivery by a dentist, that's obviously done in the traditional dental sense, traditional dental sleep medicine practice. But in the direct-to-consumer approach, they're going to say that it was delivered by a dentist. Obviously, that's not in person. There's general dental oversight, so general dental supervision, and it would be mail order, so not physically delivered in the office setting. In the physician MSA model, that's the case as well. Traditionally, that would probably be mail ordered to the patient after they've been evaluated by the physician. And then there's some type of dental supervision with the outside contracted entity to look at the impression, but no direct dental evaluation. They're not looking at imaging and so forth, et cetera. In all of these models, we're billing it to medical insurance. So these aren't models where we're just talking about something that is billed as a cash pay item to the patient. All of these types of models we see being billed to medical insurance as well. In some of them, they're billed to medical insurance by the dentist. So obviously in the standard dental sleep medicine practice, it's typically billed by the dental practice. In a direct-to-consumer approach, it could be billed by an entity that is a general dental practice, or it may not be a general dental practice. In a physician MSA model, it's usually billed by the physician group practice, not the contracted dental entity. In a physician-provided dental sleep medicine practice, where the physician's doing the dental sleep medicine, that's billed again by the physician group practice. And same thing, typically when a physician employs a dentist, it's billed by the physician group practice. And then whether or not there's any in-person dental follow-up, obviously that's the case when you have the standard dental sleep medicine practice, and it's the case when a physician employs a dentist, but in all the other models, there's no direct in-person dental follow-up to manage side effects and so forth. Hopefully that's a lot there, but hopefully that helps at least create a framework for the discussion.
Yeah, I appreciate you walking us through that and putting this together. Kent, is there anything that you would want to clarify or add to sort of that description of what we're looking at here?
Well, I think there's variations probably in all of these. I think Scott knows that. So I think this is a great overall view of the different models. There's not a lot that I would disagree with, just that there's going to be some situations, and I don't even remember now where I was when I said, well, that might not be how we do it. But anyway, yeah, this is a lot of work you did, Scott. So thanks.
Yeah. So one of in talking with some people that whether they work with these direct-to-consumer organizations or they sort of champion these types of models, what I've heard from them is that these disruptive models are their attempts at increasing access to care, at streamlining processes, and helping more of these, 30 million undiagnosed, untreated apneics that we always talk about, how are you going to reach these people? They say this is their attempt to do that. And as a result of that, they should be applauded for really making an impact, and that dentists that don't encourage their success are really just concerned that it might carve into their market share. Um, what would you say to that, Stacy?
I would just ask this one question. How many people have, whether it's the dentist or an assistant, has ever had a perfect record for taking impressions on a patient? One and done, it's perfect. It's not easy. And those of us that do this really a lot understand midline, occlusion, bite, the whole thing. We understand the jaw and deviation, deflection. And so to assume that this isn't causing harm and it's better for patients for access to care is absurd, and it's doing nothing but harming these patients who are then going to end up in our offices. And the really sucky part is, because these people are billing medical, they're going to come to us. It's happened. Every one of us on here has seen it. They come to us and now they can't get insurance reimbursement because they went through these mail order companies, and they don't have, they won't pay for it again. So
Well, if I can, you when you mentioned that everyone here has experienced that, Rob kind of nodded affirmatively. You know, Rob, what does that look like at your practice in Ohio there? Um, patients that maybe got treated
Yeah,
via one of these models. What's the scoop?
I actually, to be honest, clinically, we haven't had any experiences with patients that have gone through this process and been unsatisfied. Kind of quite the opposite. And any of the providers that we work with that have been approached by the direct to consumer companies, one that comes to mind is Daybreak, because they're pretty active. I'll get texts almost immediately or calls and say, hey, these guys are in the office. What's your take on this model, right? And I think Dr. Lehman did an awesome job of nailing down some of the clinical stuff and some of the reasons why, like, this model and this quality would cause more of an issue than, at least at this point, would cause more of an issue than help the solution or help the problem. So, again, like as I mentioned earlier, I'm a systems person. So, obviously there's an access to quality care problem, I think, which this model has probably brought to light. It's really difficult for patients to get from, at home on the couch, like to the sleep physician or tested and then into an oral appliance. Like there's definitely a lot of hoops. So, kind of vertically integrating it and making it sort of this mail order easy solution, like that sounds really appetizing to patients, right? So I think it kind of speaks to the demand in the field, but it's just improperly met, I think, because of the levels and the quality of care, and a lot of just a lot of the green check marks that Scott put in the leftmost box relative to the other columns. So yeah, we haven't bumped into any issue patients yet, but I suspect they're coming, especially in one of the newer markets that we're launching.
Well, I can tell you that, at least in the Dallas area, I think most of you are familiar with the Simple Sleep Services cash grab and the problem that it caused. We have had hundreds come in not being given any instructions, no follow-up. They weren't ever scheduled for a follow-up, weren't told how to adjust the appliance. They would call and not get anyone on the phone. And this is a company that was trying to pay more attention to it. And they actually had a dentist and they had a physician doing telemed consultations with the patient. So they were trying to subvert the normal standard care, and that failed. So why we would think that this new model now, where there's even less oversight, is going to be successful. I just don't believe it's going to happen. But to be honest, your question was about the bottom line and are we concerned? And to be transparent, of course we are. I mean, to deny that we are would be a lie. Okay. So, but I would say, unless we're pulling the philanthropic card, why don't these companies, if they're saying that we're looking at our bottom line, why don't they just market and advertise, go see your local qualified dentist to get treated?
Well, you said that, you saw hundreds of patients from the organization that you mentioned. I mean, these companies, in many instances, they are very savvy marketers with significant advertising spend. What can dentists do? Like I'm thinking about Inspire, right? Inspire has become a household name, and I would say any smart dentist, rather than naysaying Inspire, would recognize that most patients are precluded from Inspire. They should, and in turn, the marketing spend, the advertising spend from Inspire, rising tide raises all ships. It raises awareness about sleep apnea and potential alternative treatments. Is there a way that dentists can take advantage, can leverage that spend and awareness that's created by it to benefit your own practices? Scott.
I mean, I think if the patient gets to you before they've gone through treatment with that mail order company, then yes. I mean, the dental sleep medicine practice in that region or whatever is going to benefit from the marketing of that company. And I think, when there's a great provider down the street from you, everyone wins because it elevates the quality of the care. It brings awareness to the treatment, and that's a winner. But when the quality of the care is so poor, I think that's the huge concern. And like Kent was saying, what do we do as practitioners, as practices when these patients come in, they've been seen by the mail order company or whatever, and they've been stripped of their medical benefit without any of the features that traditional dental sleep medicine involves. There was no comprehensive dental evaluation. There was no imaging to determine candidacy. There was no, verification of the patient's range of motion in terms of their protrusion. There was no direct dental oversight of the bite, the impression, no in-person supervision of a dentist of any kind whatsoever. So that patient now has various problems with the device, potentially the fit, there are side effects, and all of a sudden, all the benefits have been stripped. So we're just supposed to take that patient on and manage them throughout their entire course of the treatment when they've experienced side effects. So they're already an at-risk patient who's experienced issues, and we're going to adopt that liability. Like, it's a significant concern, I think, to all of us. I think the benefits are far outweighed by the risks here. The risks are
Yes, outweighed by the
than the
benefits.
benefits.
Yes. Yeah. And so it was a question or some variation of this question came through a few times from registrants, which was basically, I didn't know anything about this. This sounds like Smile Direct Club for oral appliance therapy. And then many of them were followed up with something like, so it's going to fail. I don't know that. I mean, what are the differences between the two? And with the money that's backing some of these organizations, I don't think that there's any guarantee or any expectation of failure. Where am I wrong there, Kent?
I think they're going to fail. Yeah, I would agree with those people that asked that question. And the problem is when they do fail, it's not if, it's when. It could be 2 years, 3 years, maybe they'll last 5 years. We're going to have to be saddled with the roadkill of these patients who come in with these appliances. And the same thing happened with the company I mentioned before. I had to work on these patients for free. because I felt guilty that they paid money for these appliances. And now I have to help them work through issues they were having. And they had billed medical insurance also. So I couldn't make them a new appliance. Sometimes we even made them a whole new appliance for free. It's just, if we care about our patients, we should care that the right standard of care is being used.
Mhm, mhm.
And the problem is, will they fail? Yes, but, and like Kent said, but the founders are going to walk away with a ton of money. And that's
Right.
what they're going to come in. They don't care about the patients and access to care. They care about coming in and making a ton of money and then getting out and leaving a disaster. We have seen it before. This is nothing new. So who is it that's really doing the money grab right now?
Scott, what would you add to that?
Yeah, and I mean, I think historically that's accurate. I mean, look at what somebody winds up holding the bag in that situation. At the end of the day, if you look at Smile Direct Club, Align Technologies took a hit. If you look at, Byte, look at what's going on right now with Dentsply Sirona. They just bought a $1.4 billion company that's been sidelined by the FDA for a variety of different patient safety issues. So, great for those people that pumped up that company to $200 million and turned it over to Dentsply Sirona for an all cash deal and watched Dentsply Sirona hold the bag. So not only was Dentsply Sirona left holding the bag, but I'm sure there are a ton of patients out there mid-treatment that aren't going to continue to get the follow-up treatment that they need. So to Kent's point, these patients are left in our lap to take care of. And this is not a temporary cosmetic treatment. Treating someone with obstructive sleep apnea is a lifelong treatment. It has the forces of ortho or more over the entire lifespan of the patient. I think that needs to really be understood at the end of the day. I mean, we're talking about a condition with really significant comorbid medical conditions associated with it. And it's a lifelong treatment with really significant dental side effects. They are significant and they happen in a large portion of the patient base.
Rob, you shared with me at one point in a sidebar conversation that some referring physicians um, had been approached by some of these companies. Um, how do you differentiate your services from these direct-to-consumer services with those referral sources? Because, and I ask this question because, of course, everyone on this, everyone that's here tonight um, knows that working with your physician referral sources, they want to ensure that the patient gets the best experience. Things are as streamlined and as affordable as possible. So how do you differentiate the services that you provide from those of these organizations?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think there's a couple. If you're kind of in the audience and you're kind of wondering how to start to do this, right? The three people that were just talking gave you some incredible bullets to write down. So I hope you were jotting those down, right? When you go into your medical physician offices and you're talking about your processes and your care model and you have 3 or 4 diplomates on your team and your staff is well trained, and maybe you have a CCSH and you follow AADSM protocols. Like, these are all incredible value adds. And I think it's totally fair to mention some of the things that Scott and Dr. Smith and Dr. Lehman also just brought up, right? Just about the quality of the model, the quality of care, the quality of the devices that you use. There are standards in place, and the Ohio Dental Code has standards for who can take an impression, who can seat a device like this. And I don't know a medical physician that doesn't acknowledge the importance of care standards. So if you can just kind of pretty easily point to that sort of thing, depending on the physician, I mean, this is a really easy discussion to have, right?
Kent, have you had some of those conversations with any referring physicians?
No, not really. Subject hasn't come up. But I do want to make a point too about the appliances. It's my understanding that typically these companies have one appliance company that they try to work with. And in our practice, we use 8, 9, 10 different types of appliances. There's not one appliance that's going to be best for any specific patient. So you lose that discernment when you're trying to mass produce and see a mass number of people. I understand that. It's like a Southwest Airlines or McDonald's. Yeah, those models work, but you don't get selectivity like a patient should have. They should be able to choose. We should be able to choose as well. And I don't think that's the model that these companies use. I may be wrong.
No, and then the device that they do get, again, is one of the least expensive on the market. And here, if it's all about access to care and getting these patients and just getting all these people in treatment, they would do it for cash. They wouldn't bill medical. They would do it for cash for a really great price with their really cheap device. That's what they would do, but they don't. They have high prices, the same as what we bill, and they bill insurance, but yet they use these really, really cheap and expensive devices that are the last 3 years.
Well, a couple of comments have come through since we've been on this topic from dentists that work with some of these organizations, and they said that that's just not the case. That they do use myriad different devices, and they select a device that's best indicated for the case's unique presentation.
Like what? Could we get somebody to say what kind of devices do they use? Which devices?
Yeah, I would like to hear that as well.
Well, when an answer comes through, I will let you know. Panthera, Prosomnus,
Jason,
Serena,
Jason, you may have missed. Yeah, I was going to say Serena.
good sleep company, Tap. So, kind of it sounds like the full armamentarium of devices that everyone here is using.
So they're saying that they do direct, because I'd love to hear it. They do direct to consumer. They're a dentist that works with these companies. So they are able to choose a Prosomnus device with a direct to patient. The patient takes their own impression. Or is this the model where they come into the office?
The answer was simply yes, absolutely.
I don't believe it. I'm sorry. Everybody that's delivered a Prosomnus, you know what it takes to deliver a Prosomnus, especially at the beginning. Your scans, it's so exact. Don't tell me a patient is taking their own impression and getting a Prosomnus and putting it on at home. That's crazy.
These are the patients that wind up back in our offices at the end of the day. I mean, disruption in healthcare is a value proposition. Rob was talking a lot about value. Those value metrics are cost, access, and quality. The cost doesn't change here at all. It's not like it's a fee for service where they're charging a much lower price. They're billing it to medical insurance. So the patient is paying the same out of pocket coming to us that they would in a direct to consumer approach. And the access, you could say that there's greater access because they're bypassing the direct dental oversight that is absolutely necessary to have a high level of quality. And if you want to look at quality, look at, the framework that I put together here. All the green check marks in the standard dental sleep medicine care model don't exist in these other models in varying degrees, but they don't exist. So there's your value proposition. When somebody comes in and says, I want to go to a direct to consumer approach, okay, well, they don't have a comprehensive dental evaluation. There's no dental imaging and interpretation by a dentist. There's no direct dental oversight of the Byte registration by the dentist or an impression. The patient is taking their own impression. And then there's no direct dental oversight of the delivery of that oral appliance. So it's shipped in the mail. Again, so I mean, like those are the value adds. You just go through this list and take a look. Everything
Yeah.
that you read in those models is not being done.
So let me mention a couple things coming in relevant to this in the comments. Uh, so my buddy Dr. Hahamian will be joining us for part two of this conversation, May 27th, and he mentioned that he took note of some of the comments made and shared the myriad different devices that they use. With that being said, a ProSomnus rep who will go unnamed said, coming from a tenured ProSomnus rep, no, we don't work with direct-to-patient impression companies. So it sounds like there's more to unpack here, and we'll certainly dive deeper on that and have some more varied voices on May 27th when we do part two of this. I want to ask you all, and actually, Stacey, I'll start with you if you can take the baton on this one. Several of the registrants asked in their when they registered, they asked some form of what is the AADSM doing about this, and who do we complain to about this? Who, when we one dentist said they said something to the effect of, I've had two patients that were treated by this direct to consumer do it yourself impression kit model that had problems. Where should I tell them to go? So that's a two-part. Actually, I want you to take the first part, Stacey. What is the role of the AADSM here, and how pleased are you with their action thus far?
Speaking for myself, I'm incredibly
Yes.
disappointed. I think that they're very slow to respond and slow to act. I think that a lot of people aren't going to see the direct result of this for a while. And by the time the AADSM gets involved and acts, it's too late. The damage has been done to so many people. And it's like the Medicare thing that happened. By the time we finally got a team together and a committee together to work on the whole Medicare thing, the decision was made to postpone. Like, they're just too slow to react. And I think we need them to say something. They are our organization. We are members. I've been a diplomate for, I think, at least 10 years. Come on. I need people to respond to this and at least act like they are on it or care about it or something. And unfortunately, it's very difficult to get anyone to have any comment.
Dr. Lehman, I would just kind of add to that. I think you're saying something really interesting. You're saying they're slow to react and they're slow to respond. And I think what really makes an industry better is having an organization that's more proactive. So I agree with you. You shouldn't be reactive, right? Our organization that leads our industry should be proactive. They should be, they should be running this webinar, right? They should have hosted this webinar 6 months ago or a year ago, or they should be informing dental practitioners about these models. They should certainly be communicating with the American Academy of Sleep Medicine about the potential, complications with just this, mail order oral appliance solution, right? I didn't want that to kind of get lost. I appreciate you saying reactive, and I just think that a more proactive approach would benefit, not only the dentist but certainly the patients in this case.
Absolutely, they should be going to the insurance companies and saying, this should not be a covered benefit from these companies because this is what's happening. This is the care that your patients are getting. Somebody needs to do that. And the individual dentist, we don't have that power or that ability. It's their job. And I don't believe anything is being done about it. I could be wrong, but they don't communicate, so we don't know.
I think what's also kind of interesting is, without a little bit of lack of understanding of the AADSM sort of business model, right? People pay dues. They dentists pay dues. Dentists also pay to go through classes, courses, achieve certain statuses. So, if the position isn't made that having more qualified, more capable dentists is better for the field, like you're kind of cutting your nose off a little bit, right? So if these direct to consumer models continue to grow and expand, like if I'm a patient and I'm going to the website, I'm not looking to see if this company has diplomates. I just want to get my test. I want to get my appliance, and that's it, right? So if I'm the AADSM, I mean, it's kind of a good idea to think about what your 5-year plan is, right? Are we going to have more dentists that are paying us more dues, that are getting qualified, that are meeting the needs of patients, that are working hand in hand with sleep physicians and ENT and cardio, or are we just going to sort of like not do anything? So,
Kent, you're typically one to stray from controversy, but we're going to every time you try to get out, we pull you right back in. What would you add to this role of the AADSM? Pleased with their position and activity thus far?
At least they could have sent an email if they're doing anything at all behind the scenes. And like Stacy said, maybe they are. But if they are, they certainly should have communicated and said, hey, we know what's going on. We're working behind the scenes. We will work with the AASM to make sure they're aware of this and make sure they are aware that we are displeased with this and that we think some policy or some kind of a statement will be coming out very soon. But as Rob said, this should have happened a year ago. I can almost promise you, even after this webinar, nothing will happen. I hope I'm wrong.
I hope you're wrong too.
That was a little high on the controversy meter for Dr. Smith. Let's just let the record reflect that.
There's no need to name names here, but one lead author on the AADSM's position paper on self-impressions has some equity in one of the companies that does just that. I mean, it seems to be, counter to what makes sense here. I mean, I don't know. Help me understand.
Well,
Scott?
Yeah, I'll push back a little bit. Just for another point of view, why not?
Yeah, please.
There's no other organization that's done more for dental sleep medicine than the American Academy of Dental Sleep Medicine, period. And they've worked on training, they've worked on clinical guidelines, they have joint guidelines with the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. Most of the prominent practitioners in dental sleep medicine have become qualified or diplomats of the American Board of Dental Sleep Medicine, and that's a requirement in our organization. I'm very supportive of the American Academy of Dental Sleep Medicine and all of those people working to further our field. With that being said, I think the American Academy of Dental Sleep Medicine itself and the leadership within it is well aware of the issue of the advocacy problem that we are facing in the industry. We need advocacy. We need lobbying. We need a voice, a unified voice to payers. We need a unified voice for all the stakeholders out there. And, it takes time. I am sure that they are working on this very issue, but as you say, it tends to be reactive, and that's why there needs to be, an advocacy committee working on these issues. And I think Kent had some great ideas of potentially, putting some of our funds in our membership and earmarking them for advocacy and things like that. So maybe that's a plan of action moving forward, because there's no doubt that we need representation. With the changes that came along with CMS here, recently. I know Stacy's on that committee or that task force. So Yeah, I mean, there's always issues coming up in the space. And I mean, just look at the number of models here, and I'm sure it's not over. And, for those appliance manufacturers that aren't involved in, direct to consumer dental sleep medicine, I'm sure if the business volume, continues to grow, it will be very difficult for them not to jump into those waters. So, I think that people need to be aware of some of the risk associated with this, especially the providers that are getting involved. I mean, when you look at the physician community around us, there are, depending upon the model that you choose up there are really significant issues when it comes to potential violations with Stark law, especially if you're hiring a 1099 independent contractor to do dental services. There are FDA issues. The FDA shut down Byte, that they have paused doing any clear aligner orthodontic trays because of some of the safety issues. There are some really significant scope of practice issues that could, impact any medical provider providing dental services. The dental and medical boards obviously have a say in that. There's malpractice issues to be aware of. There's billing audits and clawbacks that can occur when you're not billing as a
So
dentist.
Scott, on that note, and again, this is a question that came through from several registrants, and a couple have submitted some version of it tonight. I mean, who should dentists turn to when they see a patient that has had developed side effects or been mismanaged or undermanaged, suboptimally managed by one of these in one of these cases? Where should they go?
First, I'd file an incident with the FDA. I would file something to the state dental board. I would potentially, if it was a physician that was involved in that care, I'd file something to the medical board. I would. I believe it's more on us. I believe that each individual can actually make change. So I would push at the AADSM level to let them know that there is an issue in this particular case walked into our office and the specifics surrounding it. I would also, I think it's incumbent upon us to change the local coverage determination over at CMS for oral appliances. I believe that we can eliminate self-impressions from medical coverage.
Yeah.
I believe that's absolutely possible, and an individual dentist can do that. You do not need the American Academy of Dental Sleep Medicine or any other organization to do it. Anyone can do it. You don't even have to be a dentist.
Kent, what would you say to a dentist? So some of these organizations, basically a dentist. Well, let me phrase this differently. One of the challenges, a huge challenge in dental sleep medicine over the years, has been dentists that enter the field really getting any traction, right? They have difficulty implementing the model into their practice. And some of these companies say to the dentist, look, we'll put a scanner in your office. We're going to manage the screening. We're going to take care of everything. You're essentially just going to scan the patient and deliver device. It seems to me at its face that would really help increase the number of dentists that are able to provide this life-saving service. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree. I think that model could work if there's a dentist that's there to examine the patient, make sure that there's no contraindications to treatment. They've examined the TMJ. They have picked out the specific type of appliance that's going to work. And they're willing to accept the fee that these companies pay. I have yet to see a fee offered by a company that the vast majority of dentists would accept. I saw even in one of these threads, they wanted even $1,000 to do the exam, the scan, the delivery, all the follow-ups. You've lost all your profit margin if you're taking less than 1,000. And this is why you're not going to get dentists to use that model in general. Yeah, you're going to find some. But yeah, I think the model would work if it makes sense for the dentist.
Stacy, you were shaking your head vigorously.
God, it just drives me friggin' nuts. It's not about the initial exam or the scan or even the delivery. It's about the who's responsible for that patient. We have patients, I was just saying today, I have a few patients that never leave. They're always around for years and years and years, 5, 10 years down the road, and they keep coming back, which is not horrible, but they're the red flags, the ones, the problem. Now you're going to get $1,000 and feel bad because you can't charge them anymore because they paid this company. And you're going to have to deal with their jaw pain, and then their crown comes out and they want you to pay for a new crown, and their dentist said that their bite is off and now you got to deal with that. No, this people that think that dentists are expecting too much money and they can't even pay you $1,000. They don't get it. They don't understand what really good care and true dental sleep medicine therapy looks like. Sorry, you don't. Because I agree, Kent Smith is right. $1,000 barely cover your cost, and that's for a patient that doesn't come back year after year after year.
Right.
I want to say we've got about 5 more minutes until we wrap. There's been a bunch of chat, a bunch of questions coming through. I've been trying to weave some of them into the discussion, but as we wind up here, this is your opportunity to submit any other questions or comments that you have. We'll try to get them addressed. Now we've got two. So there have been a number of comments made from individuals that work for or with these companies. This one just came through. It said, for the dentist, there are 2 visits. The first visit's for exam and scan. The second visit is for delivery. 2 visits for $1,000 should be ample and profitable for 90% of sleep dentists. I understand that it doesn't work for everybody, but it should. No?
Yeah, I like that. Follow-ups if needed. Follow-ups are always needed. So that there tells me volumes.
Let me ask you this again. Just a reminder, now is the time to type in your questions if you've got any. We are going to have part 2 of this on May 27th. But Scott, I'll ask you. What would you say is positive about these organizations?
I think they're all looking for ways to solve the access to care problem. And there is an access to care issue. There's an access to care issue in sleep as a whole, not just dental sleep medicine. But solving that problem by bypassing a licensed provider is not a solution.
Rob, what positives would you identify with these direct-to-consumer models?
Yeah, I love taking the R&D approach to anyone that's really marketing really well and really kind of meeting the patient where they're at. And by R&D, I mean rip off and duplicate. So Inspire was really good about talking to patients who weren't responding well to CPAP. They did that very colorfully in their commercials and in their branding and marketing. These direct-to-consumer models are giving you the answers to the test. Patients, they want what you have. You just need to make it a little easier for them. And your one up is the value that you create. And hell, take Scott's chart that I know he worked hours on, and just make that one of your posts too, right? Like, hey, we'll give you the same thing, but we're just going to do it a lot better. So again, I'm a systems guy. We've created this environment has been created for this model. I think if you're delivering quality to your audience, whether it's your physician referring partners or if you're delivering quality to just patients in general, this model is concerning, but I think it's also good, right? It starts a lot of good conversations. I love coming in. I love coming into an office after a rep for one of these companies has been in there. So,
Kent, closing words.
Yeah, first of all, Scott used AI to create that chart, I'm sure. So I'm just saying. Um, uh, I can't really add too much. They had great observations there. It's all about awareness. I mean, if we could just get more awareness, just like Inspire, everybody that creates the awareness, whether it's Shaquille O'Neal or I don't care who it is, if you create awareness, we're going to eventually benefit. And by that, I mean the entire world of people with apnea. If they realize it's still 80 to 85% undiagnosed. So it's difficult to battle these companies because we know they're creating awareness. And so I appreciate that fact.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, on our next webinar, May 20, or not our next webinar, our next part 2 of this, we will have some individuals from these direct consumer companies, and we can hear it a more well-rounded dialogue and maybe a little more friction and hopefully some more understanding. But I really want to say thank you to each of you for being here. I know there are a lot of demands on your time, and Scott, for you to put all of this together, and everyone after a busy day seeing patients, except you, of course, Kent, to everyone else. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your experience, your insights, and your time with every one of us. And to all of you that joined us tonight, thank you so much. We appreciate your dedication to your patients, your practices, and the dental sleep medicine profession. Keep an eye out on your email for your CE certificate in the next 48 hours. Join us at the Transform Dental Sleep Symposium. Use that code webinar to save $75 on dentist and team tuition. It's good.
I'm registered
through Saturday. Yes. And thank you all for being here. Remember,
Hey, Jason.
Yes.
One thing, sorry. You know what's
Go.
great about that slide? If you look at it, all of those models are billing medical insurance. That's the thing that's great. There is coverage for oral appliance therapy, and it's not that difficult anymore. You can get paid by medical insurance. That speaks volumes, and that's why everyone's jumping in.
Great point. We all remember a time when home sleep testing was frowned upon. There was no medical reimbursement for oral appliance therapy. So yes, progress. Thank you all again. We appreciate you, and go forth, make change, make it happen. Good night.
Thank you.
No.